Domino Thinking presents Natural Born Speakers with your host, Allison Donaghy. If you are born to talk and want to know how to build your career around it, then Natural Born Speakers is the show for you. Now grab your seat because this is the place to be. Now here is your host, Allison.
Hi, thanks for tuning in this fabulous sunny day. I don't know what it's doing where you're at, but I have to tell you, here on Vancouver Island, we have had horrible weather all year long. It's been rainy, it's been gross, and today it is sunny, and all I want to do is get out and hang out in it. But because I want to talk to you lovely folks that are listening and my fabulous guest, Heather, I am inside and excited about this next hour. I think we're going to hear lots of great stuff from Heather. Heather is a personal and leadership development consultant, and she does transition consulting too with millennials and talking about, well, she's going to tell you what they talk about because she's going to be doing lots of talking coming up soon. She has a heart and passion for people, teaching them how to find fulfillment both personally and professionally. Thank you, Heather, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you. And I'm glad that it's sunny where you are because it is not sunny here in Indianapolis.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, I'm really sorry to hear that, but I do not want to join you there because the weather has been so terrible. Last year, our summer started the end of April, and now we're still not in summer. And I drive a Jeep, so all I want to do is take my roof off and take off the doors and enjoy the summer, and I can't do it. But I'm holding hope that the sun's going to stay.
Yeah, but you can do it today.
I can. I'm going to. I'm sure I have somewhere to go after this call.
That's right.
Yes. So thanks again for joining us. And you just got back from Paris. So you must be jet lagging a bit.
I am a little jet lagged. I was in Provence.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, not Paris.
I got to stay at Julia Child's country home, which was amazing. And the weather there was perfection. I think we had one day that was 90 degrees. The rest of it was probably in the mid to upper 80s. It was just beautiful weather.
Very cool. Oh, and you were there for a workshop, weren't you?
I was there for a program called Master Your Mission, which is a program for female entrepreneurs. You basically apply, and if you're accepted, you get to go. And they really teach you a lot about personal and professional development. So this was my second year attending as an attendee, and it was an amazing, amazing week. And for me personally, I've really been focusing a lot on self-care, and I felt like I got to do that, and I got to cook in Julia Child's kitchen, so it was a great
Not
week.
everybody gets to say that. I might say I got to burn something in Julia Child's kitchen.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Oh, wow. That would be something. Yeah. And there's such a cool story behind Julia Child's house, isn't it? And how it just got bought.
Yes. Yeah, there is. And so her house was bought by McKenna Johnston and a few other people. And essentially the reason why they bought it was because they really wanted to encourage international travel, especially after the Paris attacks. And so it is on Airbnb. So if anybody's interested, I know that they are booked out for at least a year already, but I can tell you that it's worth every penny. It's an amazing place. And actually, while I was there last week, I did a lot of Facebook Lives in my Facebook group. It's called Dragonfly Women. And essentially, I just really shared some insights and shared some of, I shared cooking in Julia's kitchen, and there's this yoga platform that is just above Julia's house. And it's just magnificent because you can kind of see over her house, but then you can also see in the distance on both the left and right, these two medieval towns that sit in the hills. And it was just like, it was just the most amazing place. Like, I'm like, I don't ever want to leave this spot. It was so peaceful. And I think the one day that I was up there, I was just kind of having some quiet time to just center myself and really focus on some things that I want to do in my business and the kind of people that I want to continue to work with. And And so I had this like really great moment, and I came down from there, and a friend of mine, was like, are you done up there? Because it was kind of like the coveted spot. And for whatever reason, it was my spot. And like a few moments later, she came back down and she's like, oh my gosh, you have to come up here. You have to come up here. And I was like, what? And she took me up there to show me the most beautiful dragonfly that was just sitting there, like right where I had been. And it just stayed there we were up there for at least 10 minutes, and it just stayed there. And it was just such a cool thing, because you see this beautiful dragonfly, and in the distance you see this medieval town, and it was, oh my gosh, just amazing.
Well, and we should probably talk about why that's significant, because your company is called Dragonfly Direction.
Yes, my company is Dragonfly Direction. Yes.
Yeah.
Hence the Dragonfly women. Yeah.
Yes, we should mention that. And our listeners can find you at dragonflydirection.com.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And is your Facebook group, it's Dragonfly Women?
Yes, Dragonfly Women. Okay. And my Facebook page is Dragonfly Direction. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, same handle, Dragonfly Direction.
Terrific. Sounds great. So we can find you in lots of places.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So tell me, because I'm nosy, how did you get from wherever you were, however long ago, to where you are now? Like, what does that journey look like, and why did it happen? And
yeah. So that's a really big question.
Oh, I have those.
Yeah, but it's a great question. So I worked in nonprofit for a long time, and I did supportive services for aged populations in subsidized housing, essentially. And I also did a lot of work with youth. And the short of it is I attended a youth conference as a volunteer, and there was a speaker, Jeremy Kingsley, and I can't even to this day remember what he was talking about, but I just remember it really touched me, and I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm here as an adult, like I'm not supposed to be getting anything out of this. And I remember driving to work that following Monday and just having this huge download that I was supposed to like start this business and to do this thing to reach people and to really empower people and inspire people to really, understand and have the courage to work through tough circumstances, because that has been my story. I've had a lot of tough circumstances. I had a really rough start. I lived in subsidized housing as a child, didn't have a whole lot growing up, experienced, different kinds of abuse. And essentially I was a teen mom, and all of those things, even though people told me that I wasn't supposed to become anything or do anything, I just didn't believe it. I just felt like, there's a reason why all of this is happening, and there's a reason why I need to keep pushing through and not to give up on my dreams and desires. And so when this download came about probably 10 years ago now, it was kind of a surreal moment, and I was kind of like, I don't think that this is for me. I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't know. I don't know. And so I started to move down that path, and quite honestly, I chickened out and had a little more learning to do. And about 4 years ago, I got this, pesky download, this whisper, whatever you want to call it. I call it divine intervention. And I really felt that I was supposed to start a blog. And so for me, I had lots of excuses, because I was like, I don't know how to blog. I don't have a cool name for a blog. I can't do this, but it wouldn't go away. And I remember there was this night that I was laying in bed watching TV, and I just was channel surfing and came upon this news program that I've never watched since, but it was talking about stiletto women. And it was talking about these female entrepreneur groups that are popping up all over the country. So I was just curious and thought, Indianapolis is a small city, so surely there has to be some kind of group here. And so I didn't find a stiletto network here, but I did find the network of women in business. And so I thought, well, I'll go check that out and see what it's all about. And I did. And ironically, they had a guest speaker that day who was talking about blogging.
Oh,
And
how handy.
yes. So I was like, oh my gosh. and I connected with the speaker. And I just said, you know what? I just feel like I'm really, really being prompted to do this. So I'll have my blog up and live in the next 30 days. And I did. And so that is kind of how Dragonfly got launched. And really the name Dragonfly Direction comes from just being curious. And I landed on the dragonfly because it's really the symbol for transition. It's a symbol for change and character and integrity. So essentially, Dragonfly Direction means change direction. And that is what I help people do, is change direction in their life. So,
well, and the really cool thing about dragonflies is that they're not supposed to be able to fly.
Exactly.
So when you're talking about that, and when I'm looking at your website and what you had said earlier about people who, didn't think you were worth anything, and you're like, no, there's more in my future. And it makes sense, right? Like here that you would pick that as a name. It seems so fitting.
Yes. Yeah. And so really the rest is kind of history, and just, it just started picking up momentum from there.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get your blog out there? Like, how did you make that work? How did you get a following? Like, for people who are in that same position that you were in and want to develop that, what can you tell them?
I would say do your research and know what your keywords are and your hashtags. I think that is the biggest thing that has worked for me, is just really understanding what your keywords are. So when you're putting out your blog and you're putting in those keywords or tags, just really know what is going to resonate with your audience. I think you have to know who your target audience is, because you can just put something out there and it will live in cyberspace forever. But if you do want a following, you do need to know who it is that you're trying to reach and understand what tags and keywords and hashtags to use so that they will find you.
Right. And then where do you post your blog?
My blog, it's a WordPress blog right now, but it goes out on Twitter. And then depending on the blog post, sometimes I will also copy it and put it on my Dragonfly Direction page on Facebook so that people can find it there as well.
Right. So Twitter is your most comfortable place to post what you're posting?
For the blog, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it just kind of goes out there. And it's, it's great because I've had people reach out to me and say like, oh my gosh, thank you for writing what you wrote. Like, it really resonated with me. I'm about to be an empty nester. And so that has been a very interesting transition for me and my family.
Yes.
So I've definitely written a lot about that because it is something that is important to me. And I feel like there's not a lot of, support out there that is really seen.
Well, and I think it's one of those, it's like so many processes that we go through in life that is undervalued or diminished somehow. That we don't, we don't talk about death. We just assume that we're going to be fine with it. We don't talk. I had a guy talking about sex a couple of weeks ago on my show. He's a sex consultant. And there's so much about that we just assume because we have the parts, we know how to have sex and it's all going to be fine. Right. And, we hear people talking about their kids, and then they're going to go graduate, and we get so focused on maybe they're venturing out and how that parent gets freedom again, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that being on the receiving end of it, does it?
No, it does not. And this is my second time. And honestly, when our son went off to college, it really shook me up because I was not prepared for it. And like, nobody told me that I was going to feel the way that I felt. And so I was like, what is happening? And, and it was a huge adjustment, not just for me, but, my daughter had an experience, my husband had an experience, and, just creating a really healthy platform for everybody to kind of share, because even though we're so excited for these, these next chapters and adventures, there's also some grief there. And it's grief of, what we've known forever is changing forever. And that's hard sometimes. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just is what it is. And I think, allowing everybody to have time to process that and to grieve, just the old and moving into the new, it's an important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And it is so overlooked. It's,
yes.
I'm really fortunate. My son got his, welding ticket, and then he moved over to the mainland. I live on Vancouver Island. And so he moved over to Vancouver and he was welding over there. And then he, work dried up. The economy kind of crashed a bit. And so he came back, and then he started painting for my house painting company. And so now we see each other all the time. We work together, and it's kind of cool that I haven't had to do it, but I'm thinking, oh, good God, if when the time comes, I'm going to be like nuts. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that.
Yes. Well, and that's exactly what happened with my son, because I was so involved with, what he did and his extracurricular activities, and his friends were my friends, and they all laughed at the same time. And so it was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Like, who am I? and why don't I have any of my own friends? Because,
I wonder too, how much of that has to do, because you said that you were a young mom.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So at some point you hit that stage where you've been a mom longer than you've been alive.
Exactly.
And people who don't have kids until they're like 35 or 40 don't ever really, I don't think they have that same experience.
Yeah. That would make perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you then exist without your kids? Because that's been sort of your purpose for longer than it hasn't.
Yeah. Well, I think, that is a lot of what my coaching program is about, because of experiencing it myself. And so I think it's really important, for women especially, we get to that place in our life and we are really asking ourselves, like, who am I? And if I'm not, this person professional, or this person's mom, or this person's wife, like, who am I? Because so often we put our identity in all of these different things. And then when those things shift and change, we're kind of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know who I am. I don't know, like, I don't feel secure. And then people panic. And so I think it's just really important to understand who you are, what it is that you like, because so many people don't even know what they really like, and what they want to fill their life with. And so I can say my kids are 6 years apart. And so I've had some time to process, and I've definitely done things differently with my daughter than I did with my son, and just making sure that I did have time to pursue some of my own interests as well as the things that she was interested in, because I know that's really important. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sorry, we just cut out there. A little technical difficulties. Can you just back up and repeat that?
Yes, absolutely. With my daughter, I did things a little bit differently because, I had 6 years to kind of process it. My kids are 6 years apart, but I made sure that I have pursued my own interests as well as her interests, so that when she does leave for college, it's still going to be sad. And there's still definitely grieving that takes place. But at the same time, I know that I'm not going to be put in that same situation where I'm just like scratching my head saying, oh my gosh, like, what do I do with myself?
Right.
Because I don't have to run somebody somewhere or, take somebody and that sort of thing. So I definitely feel more prepared, if that's possible. But at the same time, I don't know that you can ever be fully prepared for your kids to go to college, because, my philosophy is that as your kids age, as a parent, you move from authority to influence. And so our job when they get to, middle school really, and into high school, is to really begin to make that shift, so that as they go through high school, you're much more influential in their life than the authoritative figure. And that has worked really well for me. I have a great relationship with both of my kids, and my son is actually not far from you. He's actually on San Juan Island right now.
Oh, wow.
And so, it's just, it's a process, like you said. And I think that, everybody, I think the thing is that we just need to allow the process to be the process,
Mm-hmm.
because so often we want to fight it and we go kicking and screaming and then,
Well,
and
because
then
that's always an effective method, isn't it?
yeah, but then we miss out on the whole experience,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't get it back once it's gone.
Yeah. It goes by so quickly. And
Yes, it
then
does.
there's nothing, then you live with that regret of not actually savoring, and then that just really messes with a person's head. So it goes
Exactly.
nowhere fast.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
I know in my son's graduation year, because I'd never been around children, I knew nothing about anything when it came to that stuff. And it was probably September, beginning of October, something like that. And it occurred to me that this was going to be the last season I'd get to watch him play basketball.
Yes.
And I
Hmm.
always, because I was self-employed, I had a fair amount of flexibility, so I could go and see his tournaments and I could do all sorts of things. Like I didn't miss much of anything. And as a single parent, that's hard to achieve. And
Yes.
and then I thought, whoa, this is going to be his last basketball season. And it was my favorite sport that he played, mostly because it was indoors and I didn't have to deal with the rain or the cold
Yeah.
or any of those other things. I could do my work and get in touch with customers during their breaks. And it made it change the way I saw every game after that.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
was really able to savor and enjoy, and but that comes with awareness. And I think
It
the more
does.
people talk about what's going to happen, the earlier you can become aware, and the more you can actually enjoy it. And maybe even ideally, you become aware at 5,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
you
Yeah.
enjoy all of it, as opposed to not realizing until their very last basketball season.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I can remember with my son, I think it really hit me at Christmas because, as we were, celebrating the holiday, like it just totally hit me like, oh my gosh, this is the last Christmas that's going to look like this.
Right.
And that was just like, and then I just started to panic. So,
Oh no.
so, so, but this year, because the other thing is that, while I was going through my thing and my husband was going through his thing and my daughter was going through her thing, our son was also going through his thing. And again, that's something, the schools are always preparing the kids, but they're really not preparing them for that emotional, personal side of, oh my gosh, like I'm going to college. And of course they're excited to experience something new and go to college. It's a rite of passage for some kids. But at the same time, it's like, I'm leaving my family behind. And, what happens when I'm sick? Who's going to take care of me?
Who's going to bring me chicken soup? Yes.
Exactly.
Got my
Yes.
back.
Yes,
Yeah. And
exactly.
then
And
when that stuff happens,
mhm.
then how do they even get to experience that in a healthy way?
Yeah. And so,
Because they're only
yeah,
supposed to be excited about going off to college. And so then that stuff happens, and then they have these little quiet personal meltdowns.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I can remember those were the things that I was just like, oh my gosh, what's my baby? Because I'm like, who's going to cut his hair and how's he going to get this and that? And he did get sick at school. And I remember, I think with my kids, I've always been the person that has said it's important for me to respond and not react, because I can have my reactions in my own personal time and my husband gets to experience those. So, but for my kids, it's very important to stay calm and to be supportive so that they know that they can trust me and that they can count on me. And I remember getting that first call from my son when he was sick at school, and he was just like, I really don't feel good. I don't know what to do. And so, I mean, of course I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm coming to get you. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But I knew that that wasn't going to solve his problem. And so, really I just coached him through it and just kind of gave him some tips and let him know that, I was there if he needed me, and that, if he did need me to come up there, because he was an hour and a half away from me where he was at school, that, that I would make it possible. And so he, again, it just was one of those things that he learned how to take care of himself. Um, and it turned out to be a really good thing because he knew that he could call me and he could count on me and that I was going to give him advice that was going to help make him feel better.
Right.
and not freak out because that's
Yes.
just not helpful.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, um, that's part of a parent's job too, is to give them what they need, not necessarily what they want.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's something that escapes a lot of people, a lot of parents in their.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great that you're able to have that, and then also be working with other people so that they can give their kids that gift too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just really important, and it's, it's so interesting because I do talk to other parents, and I have learned the hard way that, I can give, I only give advice to people who truly ask for it, because there have been times where I have had kids that have come to me and are like, will you please talk to my parents? And I've done that a couple times and it has never turned out well for me. So I have learned to just, people need to be ready to hear that. And when you're in that moment is usually not when people are ready to hear it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is. It's totally true. You have to have those experiences, and then you just get smarter when you have that awareness too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, I love getting to work with clients and just, for me, it's just so exciting to see somebody come to me and just be completely lost, and then have them go through my program and be like, oh my gosh, like I got it now. And now I'm ready to go forward and move forward in my life. And just to see them really begin to explore and have their own adventure. To me, there's so much satisfaction in that for me, to see other people overcoming circumstances and just really living out the life that they're supposed to be living out, the life that, really gives them fulfillment and personal satisfaction.
Yeah, it's great. We need more people like you bringing this stuff aware and talking about it and getting that message out there, so it becomes a safer place for people to explore it and become healthier with it. So great that you're doing it. So did you go from, you're welcome. How did you go from doing blogs to what else do you do? Tell us.
Yeah. So I do transition coaching, and I also do life coaching for women. And then I do business consulting. So one of the things that I use in all of my programs is the DISC personality profile. And so in my coaching, it's much more personal and tailored to that specific person. In my business consulting, I primarily work with teams and help them really understand culture and personality and how to communicate and interact with each other, and what's working and what's not working, and where there could be some hot spots with different personality types, and really how to make allowances for each other without getting frustrated or upset, because I think that's so important. But how I made that leap is actually a very unique story, because I was doing my blog for probably 4 months and feeling really good about it, but also feeling frustrated, like there's more to this. I attended a Stiletto Network summit in September of 2013. And there was a speaker who came on, Jacqueline Boone, and she was talking about fear. And she made this comment that really changed my life. She said, "Who is your fear going to keep you from helping?"
Oh.
And I really did not like that. And so we ended up connecting after that, and she is now one of my best friends, and she was at Master Your Mission. That's actually one of her programs. And we actually do a program together called Getaway Camp, which is it's Labor Day weekend. And essentially Getaway Camp is held in Asheville, North Carolina. And it is for female entrepreneurs and professional women who really want to take some time and just breathe and relax, and to have some time to just unwind. So it's pure fun. But so essentially I was talking with her because I was really trying to figure out, like, am I just a blogger, or is there something more to this? Like, I really, really want to help people, women especially. And, is there more to this? And she was the one that was kind of like, you're a coach. Like, you were definitely, going to change people's lives. And so from there, I was kind of like, okay, not really sure what that looks like. And I was actually at church, and there was a guest speaker, and he was talking about following your dreams and just really not waiting for permission to do what you were really called to do. And so I really felt called to develop a leadership development program for women. And so I went to my pastor and said, I really want to do this for the church. Like, will you support me if I do this? Will you let me teach this class? And ironically, he said to me, he was like, well, instead of you doing it for us, why don't you do it for Dragonfly, and we'll support you?
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
that
what?
is like so cool of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is really kind of, between my pastor and Jacqueline, those are the two people that really pushed me over the ledge, so to speak. And so, Dragonfly Direction as a business, essentially was born in November of 2013, and it went live publicly in January of 2014.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Wow, then you've just been going hard at it ever since.
Exactly, yes.
That's great. So cool. And so I know you've done quite a bit of speaking yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I love speaking. So I've done a lot of speaking locally here in Indianapolis at different organizational meetings, network of business and women in business. I also was asked to do a keynote presentation for Florence Crittenton High School in Denver, Colorado a few months ago, which is a really cool school. It is a high school. It's a public high school that is just for teen moms and their babies.
Wow.
And it is an incredible place because it has all of the supportive services. They can take care of their babies. There's prenatal, postnatal care, baby well care, all on campus. And
what's the name of that school?
It's called Florence Crittenton. And so it's in Denver, Colorado. It's just an amazing thing. And how I got connected with them, I actually wrote a book that is currently being edited. Mm-hmm. And the book is my personal memoir. Mm-hmm. And because I've had just so many different experiences in my life, and while they were not easy going through them, I'm very grateful for them because they've gotten me to where I am today. And so my book is a philanthropic project. So I will never make money off of my book. It is all of the sales from this book will always go back to nonprofit organizations that are helping women and teen moms find, self-sustainability, because I feel like it is so important to have good organizations supporting those people when they're down. And so Florence Crittenton is actually going to be the first recipient from the first year's book sales. Because I really believe in what they're doing and how they are impacting the lives of those young women and really helping them to get college degrees and take care of their babies. And so I can't say enough good things about it. So, I was really humbled and honored to be there because it's just such a great organization. And so I did that. And then this fall, I will be doing my first TED Talk.
Exciting. And you had said that's in Bloomington?
Yes, it's in Bloomington, Illinois, in October.
Wow. And what are you talking about? Are you allowed to say? Is it a secret?
I think I can say, I feel comfortable saying the title of my talk is "You're More Than a Statistic."
I like it.
Mm-hmm. And so essentially I will be talking about, how we have a choice in life and really, what is it that you believe? And do you believe everything everyone says to you? Mm. It's kind of the gist of what I'll be talking about. Really, part of it, again, my story, I really shouldn't be where I am because, statistically, if you look at statistics in my life, I should probably just have given up a long time ago. But I just couldn't. There was just this drive in me that I knew that I needed to keep going, even though it wasn't easy, and that there were so many more things that could go wrong. I just had to keep going, and I didn't necessarily know why then, but for me now, I just feel like, again, like, who is your fear going to keep you from helping? And I don't want my fear to keep me from helping anybody. If my story can resonate with somebody and help them get through a really rough time, then I feel completely humbled and honored to be able to share that with somebody else, to let them know that, the only person that has to decide if your circumstances are going to define who you are is you.
Right. And that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm a statistic, or I should have been a statistic, or beat the statistics. I don't even know. And it totally, it changes your outlook for sure. Mm-hmm. And and I think it really changes your relationship to other people, and being able to get behind what they're trying to do and how they can do it differently or do it better, or just like letting them know they can do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to accept the status quo.
No, you don't.
You don't have to, even, and again, I mean, and I know that my family didn't mean to say the things that they were saying. It was all that they knew. And I really believe that people do the best they can. And so, even though some people would think, like, why aren't you angry with your family? Or, I just can't be, because number one, it doesn't help me in my life. It doesn't help me move forward. It doesn't help my family. And so I just have to rest in peace and know that people do the best that they can. And that may not be my best, but it may be their best. And I can accept that. Yeah.
And when we think that there are lots and lots of times in our lives that we have done things and people have probably looked at us like we were batshit crazy and gone, why did you do that? Right? Yes. And at the time, that was what you knew. That's what you had. Exactly. And when we can, I think, be aware that that is in us, to not always be aware or to know, it's much easier to forgive other people and be understanding about where they're at. And that's in turn is much better than just harboring resentments.
Absolutely. I mean, I tried resentment once and it didn't work for me. So it was like, this is taking way too much of my energy. So
it does. And there's just no room for moving forward when you're spending that time there. Like, sometimes you just have to look at your current situation and where do we go from here?
Yes. Absolutely. And I think, yesterday, just being in that corporate environment, I was looking at some of the evaluations and for that, it was just really interesting because there were numerous people that was like, she was so calm. I wasn't sure I was ready for that in the middle of my workday. And I mean, I could take that as a negative, but I really was like, oh my gosh, they said I was calm. That's just, like, I was just like, that's, to me, I really take that as a compliment, because I think that people need more of that in their life. And I think that's what I love about being in Europe, is that there is just such an easygoing way of life there. And I really have been trying to hold on to that. Just by, getting back into the swing of things in life and just, all the things that you manage in life and business and just really keeping that calmness and it just feels much better to be calm.
It does. And I think that awareness comes from, again, being aware always comes back to that, of those times that you are calm and then figuring out how you can recreate it.
Right. Yeah.
And I taught English in Italy for a while, and I sold everything that I owned. I sold my house, sold everything but like 10 boxes and a bed. And those were in storage. And when I came back, and then I lived in Italy and I didn't accumulate anything. And when I came back, I bought a house and I had nothing to put in my house.
Yeah.
And then when I had to start buying stuff for my house, it was really stressful because I didn't want any more stuff.
Right.
And I really had gotten used to living without things.
Yes. And there's just something about it that's very freeing. And it's like you can breathe. It's so light.
That simplicity of it all. And so now, in order to keep that, I do that. If I haven't seen it or used it in 6 months, I get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that changes how I buy things, because do I really want to throw this out in 6 months or give it away or, donate it or whatever?
Exactly.
Because it changes my relationship with money. It changes my relationship with my stuff. It changes my relationship with my level of peace. And when we can become aware of what makes us feel calm or peaceful, then it's easier to incorporate it.
Yeah, and I really feel like, so I call those anchors. And I really love, and I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to when my daughter does go off to college, is just really kind of clearing out more stuff. And I just really have learned, like, my workspace is really full of anchors. It's from anchors from the different trips that I've taken and the different retreats that I've led. And, it just reminds me of the amazing people that I've met, the people that I've worked with. Clients give me gifts and different things, and not that they have to, but I keep them in my workspace as a reminder. And, when I look at those things, it just fills me with so much joy, because I think about their story. And I think about, when she first came to me, she had no flipping idea why she was even there or what I was going to do for her. But she just felt like, I think you can help me. and, at the end of the 6 months when we worked together, it's just that seeing her with so much more confidence and so much more clarity about, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Right. And like, for me, like, that's what I see when I look at those things. And just, I do a retreat in California every year. And so just having some of those things around my workspace. And so really, I want to spread them out throughout my house so that, as I'm in different rooms, I can be reminded of my travels and the different people that I've worked with, and just the people's stories. I love listening to people's stories.
Oh, I was talking about that with somebody today too. I do this thing with customers and with my house painting, because it's a stressful thing. And I will say to customers that are getting really stressed out and want to kill each other, I go, so how'd you guys meet?
Oh, yeah.
And they go, oh, remember? And then they get to this really dreamy place, and then they tell this fabulous story, and it just supersedes all of the other things that are going on in their life. So stories have such a great way of transforming and transporting us.
Absolutely.
And those things that you keep around, or those anchors, like you call them, they are just representations of those stories that we can reflect on and keep us going on those days when we're feeling a little bit tired.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're not even, like, for me, they're not even big things. I mean, sometimes they're a rock or a seashell or, something small. Most of the time they're not really big. And to the average person, they would be like, what is like, why is that in your house? But, it means so much. It means so much to me to just kind of really fill my home with that, because it just helps to keep me in that space of, just how am I going to be of service to other people? Because that is really what fills me. And my personal motto is, I want to help as many people as I can help other people. Because if I can help one person who helps 2 people, I just was able to help 3 people. And that makes me feel really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a great way of looking at it. Like, you don't have to change the whole world. There will be that domino effect.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of stress off of me. And it really allows me to focus on the people that are meant for me, essentially, and not try to think that it's my responsibility or job to save the world, because that's a really big responsibility.
Yeah. And it's, often that, I think we confuse changing the world with big, enormous events, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this big, well-publicized event that's going to change the world. In fact, those things are so few and far between. It's never going to be those things.
Right.
It's going to be those efforts we make on a regular basis every day to people who matter, who will then influence people that matter to them.
Absolutely. And to me, it's just, if I can help a woman really just even be a better mom or a better wife. I mean, that just fills me, because that just really helps to change their legacy and what they're doing, and who knows what their family will do. And and that just feels really good to me. I mean, I can go to sleep at night feeling like, I did what I'm called to do here.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Yay. And then you get to spread the love and get more people doing it.
Yeah.
Which is really, really neat. Yeah. So what's next? Like, I know you got the TED Talk coming up. What else is happening?
Yeah. So, I have Getaway Camp is next. And then the TED Talk is in October. And then in March, I work with somebody, like I said, in California, and we have an event that we do called Breakaway Weekend. And I'm pretty sure it's not 100% confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be at Mount Shasta.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about that, because I have always wanted to go to Shasta, and I've just heard that it has really good energy. So we will go hiking and just really explore that area. And so I'm really excited about that as well. So those are the big events that I have coming up. And I will also be doing a speaking engagement here in Indianapolis on September 28th.
Wow.
Which is called Walk the Talk. And so I'll be doing a talk about love and action, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, that's what I have coming up right now. And, other than that, just working with clients one-on-one and just, changing the world through each of them, I guess.
So how do people find out about these workshops that you have going on?
Yeah, so I use my Facebook group, the Dragonfly Women, a lot. I do have a newsletter that I do. I know that I should be more consistent with it, but this year has really been a year of transition, with just kind of preparing for my daughter to go off to school. And so typically it comes out once a month, my newsletter. And so I do post it there. I post it in the Dragonfly Women Facebook group, and then you can always find it on my website when I'm ready to put it out. It's always on the website as well.
Okay, that's great. And your book, when it comes out, where are people going to find that?
Yes, so that will definitely be on the website, and I will be sharing that on social media. I do have a GoFundMe campaign going right now, and it is called Teen Mom to CEO.
Right.
And so that is just to help pay for the printing and publishing of the book. So I'm about halfway there. I only need $1,500 to finish, and we'll be fully funded. So it's not even a lot that I need. But we have started the editing process, and I think we're maybe a little more than halfway through. So we're getting to the point where we're, starting to have conversations about the cover and all of that sort of stuff. So it's very exciting. And again, I think what I'm most excited about with the book is just that it's going to help raise money for nonprofits.
That's excellent.
Because to me, I mean, I really do love giving back to the community, because there's so many great organizations. And while, some of those organizations really helped me, I just wish that I would have known about some of the other ones, or that they would have existed, because I know the impact that it would have had in my life. And so,
can you tell me something about one of those organizations? We have a few minutes.
Well, Florence Crittenton is one of the best that I can tell you. But there's some other organizations, like here in Indianapolis. There is the Julian Center for Women, which is a domestic violence shelter. And they also have a bunch of programs to really help women kind of overcome that and not go back to the same situation. There's also a national organization called Circles. And so Circles is a great organization that is their mission is essentially to break the cycle of generational poverty. And they exist in different places across the United States. And so there's a Circles Indy, and I've done a lot of speaking there. I've actually done a couple fundraisers for them in the past 2 years. But Circles Indie is something that I absolutely love because they really are trying to educate and empower people to break the cycle of poverty so that, they are giving people information and education on, how to have a bank account and how to open one and how to balance a checkbook and just simple things like that we often take for granted. Mm-hmm. And really the thing that I've learned, I mean, again, I've worked with people in impoverished populations for a long, long time. It is one of my soft spots. But the biggest thing that I think people in poverty really need is social connection. People in middle and upper class, if we need something, we call somebody, or we call somebody that will connect us with somebody. Oftentimes people that are in poverty don't have those connections.
Right.
So,
because everybody is just like them and they don't have the connections either.
Exactly.
So they have connections on what it's like to be poor.
Exactly.
Not the connections on how to get out of it, because if they could get out of it, they wouldn't be around those people who didn't know how to get out of it.
Yep. And so that's what Circles does, is they really try to help give people social connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. That is such a great organization. I love it.
Yes. It is.
Yes, how exciting. Yeah. And I was having a conversation with somebody not that long ago too about that. It's that generational. If the parents don't have the skills because they didn't learn from their parents, and how are they supposed to pass that down? And there seems to be this really, again, back to that assumption that we know what we should do when our kids leave home. There's that assumption that we should know how to spend money and how to save it or how to pay rent or any of those things.
Yeah, and I mean,
we're talking to a high school group, and I said to them, we're going to talk about budgets and what. So if you got kicked out of your house today and had to get a job, how much money do you think you would need to get to survive? And they're tossing out numbers like, I guess I could maybe live on $3,000 a month. Okay, so where are you going to get a job that's going to pay you $3,000 a month?
Right.
And is that before or after deductions?
Yes.
We're completely, these were like grade 10, and they were completely blown away by what McDonald's pays.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And how much rent costs. And what they would have to allow for food, and how they were unwilling to not have Wi-Fi and or internet or any of those kind of things, and cable. And once we started adding them all up, it was that realization to them. And this wasn't from like an inner city school. This is from probably our higher end neighborhood in town.
Oh, absolutely. That doesn't surprise me at all.
And here they are thinking that if all hell broke loose and they had to go and get a job and support themselves, that they could just easily bring in $3,000 a month.
Yeah. It's funny how reality, paints a different picture.
It does. Yes. And what they think is vital to living.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, that's not really a need, that's a want. And that's with people who have education and they have parents who are making that kind of money and more, and yet they still don't understand. So what choice or chance does somebody who's living in poverty have to understand that?
Exactly. And just, in the United States anyway, our systems are in place, and they really allow people to stay in poverty. It is not easy to be that generational shift to get out unless you have that social connection.
Well, and it almost becomes a game. And I know that's the case where it's here is, there's a program. How can I qualify that without having to do anything?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which on the one hand, you can hardly blame them because they just need an extra few bucks. But on the other hand, you're like, you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Right, exactly.
Right, you're not focusing on forward, you're focusing on right now. I talked to a guy from Alabama who was involved with an abstinence program. Because I don't know if it's like everything everywhere, or if this is specific to Alabama, but the young girls would get pregnant, and then their mothers would adopt the children, and then they would get social assistance to raise those children, because they were classified as an adopted child and not their real child. So some of these people were making quite good money.
Goodness, that's terrible.
I know, on their daughters having babies. But
Wow.
it's a system that they figured out the loophole, and they're making it work for them, and they're making it work quite nicely for them, but it's not changing the cycle. It's not moving them
No.
forward. And
That
so he
makes
said,
me
well,
so sad. That makes me
no,
just
I
so
know, I
sad.
was stunned. And he's
Hmm.
talking to me like it's normal. And I said to him, I said, but how, but do you really think abstinence is going to, like, when you're looking at getting a couple $1,000s a month or whatever it was for a kid,
Hmm.
how are you offsetting that with just hold out and don't have sex? Like,
Right, exactly.
there's all of this pressure coming down. They want to have sex.
Yeah,
And so I said to him, I said, have you guys ever considered paying them to just not get pregnant?
right.
And he went, what? Then that would be encouraging them to have sex. And I was like, dude, they're having sex. Like,
Right,
clearly,
exactly.
because they're making
Clearly.
babies and you kind of need
Right.
sex for that. Yeah.
Yes, you kind of do.
And he had such a hard time saying, well, we couldn't pay them. And I'm like, it'd be a lot cheaper.
It would be a lot cheaper, and it would be a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, that would solve so many problems.
Yeah. And I said, so if they're paying $1,000 a month for a kid, right, to the grandmothers, that's $12,000 a year
Hmm.
for just one child. If they paid her $5,000 to get through a school year without getting pregnant,
Hmm.
they're saving $7,000 and
Yeah.
potentially future. So
Right.
sometimes you just have to fight with the tools that are there.
Right.
And then somebody else said to me, well, that would be a violation of her human rights to be encouraged to not have children. I'm like, oh God.
Well, I mean, it could go into a college fund, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or who
To give her-
cares? Like,
yeah.
you know what? This is the deal. Don't do it. And that. But then they're like, well, she has a right to get pregnant if she wants to. Yes, and she can still get pregnant.
Right.
And her mother could get $12,000 a year for the child, or she could not get pregnant and have $5,000. But I thought it was really interesting that somebody went to that place about how it would violate her human rights to pay her to not have a kid.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, I can tell you, just from my own experience of being a teen mom, it's definitely no picnic because, I mean, in society, you're essentially invisible, and it's kind of a social and professional death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't imagine why anybody would want to do that. But then again, if you have a poverty mindset, it makes sense because it's giving you something, to help you make a living.
Yeah.
And I mean, and so while I don't understand it, I understand that is part of, what we just need to help change mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yes, maybe something else to focus on, like a future or somewhere to go or a different way. And but that's not available to them. They're going to go exactly what they know.
Exactly.
It's it's sad. Yeah. Oh, I know. There's so many things to talk about and to work through, and it's just also very complex.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
And then we have policies in place that are throwing simple solutions at these complex problems. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, are just making them more complicated.
Right.
Because those areas that aren't being addressed because of the simple solution are just becoming more inflated.
Yeah. I mean, and I always teach just a model of, personal responsibility. I mean, if we each take responsibility for our own actions, the world would be a different place.
Mm-hmm. It would be. Mm-hmm. It would be a much different place.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's tough to do.
It would be easy for me to blame all of my hardships on my parents or on other people. But again, like, how does that help me move forward? Mm-hmm. It just keeps me in a victim state of mind, and I can't be productive, and I certainly can't help anybody else if I'm going to stay in a victim state of mind.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge message to be passing on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because so many people, like even when we're talking about like global issues or national issues, where the focus is on, look what was done to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. But talking about it, that's not going to change it. So what is going to change it? How can we make things better?
Absolutely.
But it serves people's motives sometimes to stay in that past place.
Well, I mean, I think that sometimes it's comfortable to be uncomfortable instead of, when you take responsibility, when you become aware and take responsibility, you have to make change, and change is scary. I don't know anybody that is, I mean, some people are much more open and welcoming to change, but change is scary for everybody.
Well, and sometimes if we're open to the change, it's just simply because that change doesn't scare us.
Right, exactly.
Right. But another change we're avoiding, that scares us.
Yeah, I mean, change is the one constant in life. And so it's kind of like, you can make a change in your life because you choose to, or you can make a change in your life because it's gotten so uncomfortable that you have to.
Yeah.
And so I would much rather be like, I choose. I choose to do this instead of,
for sure.
Yeah, my circumstances have just gotten so bad that I just have to do something different.
Mm-hmm. And to anybody listening out there, if they want to do anything different, they can get in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I love to work with people.
Yeah, for sure. And that's dragonflydirection.com is how they can connect with you, or they can find you on Facebook.
Yep, absolutely. I am on Facebook at Dragonfly Direction. So feel free to message me, or again, reach out to me through the website at dragonflydirection.com.
Perfect. Well, I could seriously sit here and talk to you for another hour. Sadly, I don't have that option. My producer is going to start getting mad at me soon, and I have a sunny day to go out and enjoy.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you were part of my day.
Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure just chatting with you for the last hour. Thanks for the opportunity, and thank you to everyone who has been listening, and I would love to connect with you, so please feel free to reach out to me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. And until next Thursday, speak up because you have something to say and I want to hear it.
Thanks for hanging out with Natural Born Speakers. But don't stop now. Contact Allison with questions to be a guest or hire her as a speaker. Go to dominothinking.com. See you same place and time next week.